In this true story I found on Reddit, we will hear about when two brothers accidentally found an abandoned cabin. But first, we would like to hear if you have any horror stories you want to share with us. Comment down below. Now, let's start the story. It was a chilly October evening when my parents announced they were leaving for a weekend vacation. My younger brother, Ethan, and I were ecstatic at the prospect of having the house all to ourselves. At 15, I felt like I could handle anything, and at 13, Ethan was just happy to have some freedom. As our parents packed their bags and gave us a list of instructions, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of anxiety. They were going to a remote cabin deep in the woods, and the nearest neighbors were miles away. But they assured us it would be fine and that we could reach them at any time if needed. Friday night rolled around, and our parents set off into the darkness, leaving us alone in our suburban home. The first evening was uneventful. We ordered pizza, played video games, and watched a couple of scary movies. The wind howled outside, casting eerie shadows on the walls, but we laughed it off, attributing the unease to the spooky movies. On Saturday, things took a strange turn. We decided to explore the woods behind our house. As we ventured deeper into the forest, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Branches snapped behind us, and leaves rustled ominously. I told myself it was just the wind, but Ethan's nervous glances told me he felt it too. We reached a clearing, and that's when we saw it. A decrepit, abandoned cabin. It was the sort of place that could haunt your nightmares, with peeling paint, broken windows, and a twisted, overgrown garden. Ethan suggested we investigate, thinking it might make a thrilling adventure. I reluctantly agreed. The door creaked open with a piercing screech, and the smell of damp rot hit us like a wall. We cautiously stepped inside, our flashlights cutting through the thick darkness. The cabin was filled with old, dusty furniture covered in white sheets, as if someone had hastily abandoned it decades ago. We continued to explore, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the cabin had a sinister history. As we entered what appeared to be the living room, we noticed an old photograph on the floor. It depicted two boys, around our age, with identical faces and hollow eyes. They were standing in front of the cabin, holding hands, and there was something deeply unsettling about their expressions. Ethan and I exchanged uneasy glances, and that's when we heard it, the faint sound of children's laughter echoing through the cabin. Panic surged through me, and we both froze. We had thought the cabin was empty, but now it felt alive with some malevolent force. The laughter grew louder, and it seemed to come from all directions. We stumbled backward, desperate to escape, but the door slammed shut with a deafening bang, trapping us inside. Our flashlights flickered and died, leaving us in pitch darkness. Panic set in as we fumbled for the door, but it wouldn't budge. The laughter intensified, now accompanied by whispers that seemed to be just behind our ears. The air grew icy cold, and an unseen presence pressed down on us, making it hard to breathe. Terrified, I grabbed Ethan's hand and shouted for help, but our cries were swallowed by the oppressive silence of the cabin. Time seemed to stretch as we huddled together, our hearts pounding in our chests. Then, just as suddenly as it had all begun, the laughter ceased and the cabin fell silent. Our flashlights flickered back to life, and the door creaked open as if it had never been locked. Without wasting a second, we fled the sinister cabin and ran all the way back home. We locked ourselves in our room for the rest of the weekend, trying to forget the horrors we had witnessed. When our parents returned, we told them about the cabin, but they dismissed it as our overactive imaginations. But Ethan and I knew the truth, and the memory of that weekend still haunts us to this day. We learned the hard way that sometimes the scariest things aren't found in movies or stories, but in the real, chilling moments of our own lives.